Congratulations, guys, on a thrilling conclusion to the 2017 class. I love all of these projects, and we only have a few minutes left, but I wanted to, well, first of all, Andrew, I think you need to tell everyone where that secret building is, because I've lived in New York for 22 years, and I didn't know about that. Where is it, and how did you find out about it?
In Brooklyn.
But very mysterious.
I forgot the street's name. Well,
Forgot the street's name, huh? Well, I'm going to find it. So I'm going to start with a general question. We can go down the line, or you can chime in whenever you want. What was the hardest part for each of you about this? And conversely, what was the most fun part during this long year of hard work?
I'd say the hardest part was scoping for creating an experience that would have been complete by this time. I mean, we're going at breakneck speed without the resources of teams to do these kinds of projects, and it's very inspiring and exciting to see the kinds of work that your classmates are doing, and you constantly want, as Cozy says, you know what you could do? Well, this time it was like, stop doing that, and draw the Alushka line, which means the place to scope. The most fun part was getting to work with these wonderful 17 other people to do this.
I think for me, the hardest part was narrowing down the scope of my idea. I am someone who always thinks about big problems and what can I do to try to help either solve them or mitigate them, and that definitely was the toughest thing. And you challenged me, and Emily challenged me, Liz, my advisor, all challenged me to really figure out, well, what is this for? It can't just be for all men, because you're just going to set yourself up for failure. So that definitely helped towards the end of this project to help me synthesize what it is that I'm actually trying to do and solve for. The funnest thing were a couple things. I think making the booth was fun, you know, being in the wood shop, building that out, making the process seamless of going in and having the audio start for people is interesting, because people question how that works. And then just working with a great group of actors. I was fortunate to find out that SVA has a casting office, so that helped save me some time and introduce me to a great group of people. And they were very, very professional in helping me to record these scenarios. Just to finish off, originally I was trying to do live performance with the actors, and it became very difficult to manage their schedules with my schedules and the places that I wanted to hold live performance. So that's when I pivoted and made it a recording situation, which gave me more control of how I can employ it. And now I actually think it's more scalable this way.
Right, that's a great example of a difficulty that turns out to be a positive thing. You realized it could reach way more people at way lower cost, and it turned out to be a great move. How about you, Andrew?
Well, for me, the most challenging part is to build the platform, because my product is a UGC platform, so it's supposed to for everyone. So how do I create this platform, this tool, as easy as possible for amateurs, for everyone? So I think this is the most difficult thing for me, to set up a principle that makes this tool as easy as possible. And the fun thing is that I finally I did this, and I tested out with a couple of people, and they have never done any tour guide before, but they felt comfortable recording themselves and publish their content in my fake platform. Yeah.
And if you personally were using your own product, would you be a content producer or a content consumer?
Well, I would be content consumers. I'm not, because I'm not comfortable with my voice.
For me, the hardest part was really working when you work in 360 on a rectangular screen. That in itself is there's a challenge in how the interface would shape out and where you should place things so that people can see them but also not see them at the same time. This was about, there were many iterations of the project where I did change because it was smack in the middle, but you have to see the space around you. So it was really, WebVR is difficult that way because it's 360, but it's in a rectangle. What was fun was I got to record my family's stories. It was amazing. I got to speak to them all on the phone. Some of them were just calling them, putting the phone on speaker, and just putting a really good microphone under it in the hope of good quality. But I just got to speak to my family.
And in the wonderful examples that you let us listen to, I saw with your grandfather and grandmother, you kind of guided them through the experience. Even though your UI was wisely, beautifully simple. Did your other family members record it and use it themselves, or was there somebody there saying, how about this question?
No, so not all of my family members got to see the exact UI that I had. A lot of them just went on Street View and then recorded just to see the space. So no, not really. Not all of them got the chance to see the exact interface. I was iterating while I was getting them to record their stories, so it was kind of happening simultaneously.
Right. That's one of the things I like about it, that you can easily use it by yourself, but it's also really fun to have somebody else encourage you to do it, somebody in your family. So you feel like you're opening up to them and through the service to the whole rest of your family and to people after you're gone, which is really powerful. So David, you told us a little bit about a moment when your users surprised you, so to speak, and I'm curious to hear from all of you about that. A moment when testing something and you realize, hey, these people aren't doing what I thought they would do. And as designers, that happens to us a lot. Your users don't always obey what you think are obvious dictates, or what you think is intuitive, they don't, for example. So I'd like to hear from all of you, or David, you can expand on that if you want. If there was other moments in each of your projects where you were surprised by what users did, and if so, how did you deal with that?
I think I'm continuously surprised by how much we take for granted in the onboarding experiences of a new technology. The assumptions that we make in terms of how somebody's going to be comfortable, or if the instructions are on screen that they'll follow it, tend to go out the window when somebody's handed something new for the first time. And so continuing to be super conscious of, if this is new in any way, what is it going to take to make this comfortable for somebody that's not a designer, not in technology, or even if they are. So that's always a surprise.
For me, the booth, what I've noticed with it in the exhibition space is that people can't necessarily figure out how to go inside, and so I kind of have to show them. So I wanted to build a door, but I never got around to doing that, so it's really just a curtain with 2 other layers of curtains inside. So that's difficult, and what do they do when they go inside? So I printed out a set of instructions, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to read them and do that. And also when I was just testing the audio on men, a lot of them said things like, well, I'm not surprised that these things are happening, or I'm aware that this is happening, but I don't know what to do. And those conversations were what really propelled me to also design the cards and the mobile version of the cards, because that to me is the essence of the project, is having more men speak to each other about gender equality, because when you say the word gender equality, most people think women. They don't think men. They don't include men in the conversation. So I'll just tail off there because I know we're running out of time.
Thank you. Andrew?
Well, for me, at first I thought people would feel awkward talking to themselves while walking on the street. So I tested it out, and it turns out people kind of fine with this because they thought they're just talking over phone. This can really surprise me.
So it turned out to be easier than you thought, actually, not harder.
Way easier.
That's always nice.
With the onboarding, it was interesting for me. I think my thesis advisor really helped me completely change the shape of what it was. Earlier, as you saw, there's a big prompt at the beginning, and it kind of tells you a different prompt that you can answer every time. That was secondary when I first made it. When I first made it, I thought people already know what they want to say. People already know which memories they want to leave behind, so they're just going to go there and they're going to leave it behind. But that was putting a lot of pressure on anyone who got onto this interface and had to leave behind something, but they didn't know where to start. So I kind of had to bring that ahead and make that the primary interaction.
Right. So I'll start with you, since you were just answering that. If you take this to the next step, and I'm curious for each of you, now that I guess you're officially graduated, basically right now, but starting tomorrow when you walk in commencement, each of you has a very bright future ahead of you, as do all your classmates. Do you guys plan on moving forward with this project? And if so, what would you do next?
I think there's a couple of times people mentioned that what I worked on was also just there's an underlying infrastructure that could be used for many other things. I remember Cozy saying oral history is a good idea and things like that. So I definitely would want to look at least at the infrastructure of this and see if there's a tool that could be fleshed out of it and made more flexible for other situations.
Well, I would love to bring this to life, but before doing that, I would need more, usability testing and make it more, usable.
Yeah, I mean, I've tested. Well, not tested. I've had people use this and come out and say, "This is great. Can you bring it to my school?" And I've talked to specifically this week. A young man came and he tried it out and he was really enthusiastic about it. So I really do think that there is a need for it and there's a use for it. And so I will probably start networking with people who can introduce me to the right people at different colleges, and seeing if I can bring it myself, or if two, because it's an audio and I can create a schematic of how to build the booth, like share it with them and they can do it on their campus without me there as well. So yeah, I'd definitely like to continue working on it.
Yeah, Bill and I are very excited to continue collaborating on this project. I think that one thing we're interested in is how to systematize this with the Wildlife Conservation Society. Dr. Sanderson has been interested in, while we put a lot of time into creating each of these environments, would it be possible to use that data and translate it directly to maybe anywhere you picked in New York? Also really excited to work with the Lenape Center to bring human voices into that narrative, and finally thinking about how this might be even better adapted for a fourth grade curricula for New York City teachers.
Great. Well, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.